Baby, how excited are you about this trip?
Woo! Whee!
Whee!
We're listening to YouTube as we hack.
And our journey begins December 13th, 2019, from the capital of Romania, Bucharest.
It was a honeymoon of some sort.
That's right, of some sorts, because we didn't take it right after the wedding. In fact, it was a few months after.
Theoretically, the distance between Bucharest and Buenos Aires is 12,224.96 kilometers or 7,596.24 miles.
The only places farther than that for an Eastern European would be Australia or New Zealand.
In practice, it meant a 2-hour flight to Rome, some 3-hour layover, and then a 13-hour flight to Buenos Aires. Easy peasy.
It's 6:10, and we still haven't left.
In the unlikely event of a sudden loss of cabin pressure.
Oh!
This is called shorty camp. Just to make my baby look like a shorty.
To our bewilderment, a few days before, our airline wrote us an email saying that our flight to Buenos Aires would depart at midnight instead of 9:45, about 2.5 hours later. To make matters worse, the actual day that we left, the airline once again notified us that the flight would depart at 1:30, almost 4 hours later.
A bit before midnight, we enjoyed a late dinner at a ramen restaurant with a name neither of us can remember.
We're waiting and waiting and
At 1:30 sharp, our flight took off. 13 hours later, and with some very swollen ankles, we were landing in Buenos Aires.
Pareces rarísimo. ¿No quieres hablar en inglés? Pues no es...
Situated 22 kilometers outside the city, the airport we landed at is called Ezeiza International Airport, also known as Ministro Pistarini International Airport, though almost no one calls it by this name.
Since Buenos Aires is 5 hours behind Bucharest or 4 hours behind Rome, our arrival time was 10:30 a.m., meaning we were fresh and ready to go on a full day. After getting home and spending a few hours eating and gossiping with Ivan's grandmother, who was gracious enough to host us, our first stop was the Engineering Faculty and the Science and Technology Museum, which we knew we had to visit at a later date.
The absolute highlight of the day was La Recoleta Cemetery, situated in the eponymous neighborhood.
The cemetery covers 5.5 hectares or 14 acres, with the site containing 4,691 tombs, all above ground, of which 94 have been declared National Historical Monument by the Argentine government and are protected by the state.
wanna be my vlog? Yeah. Yeah.
The entrance to the cemetery is through neoclassical gates with tall Doric columns. The cemetery contains many elaborate marble mausoleums decorated with statues in a wide variety of architectural styles, such as Art Deco, Art Nouveau, Baroque, and Neo-Gothic, and most materials used between 1880 and 1930 in the construction of tombs were imported from Paris and Milan.
One of our goals was to find the most famous tomb at La Recoleta, that of Evita Perón.
In search of Evita Perón.
Perrita.
Perrita Evon.
Perrita, baby, qué graciosa que sos, mi amor.
Baby, even after a 24-hour journey, you still look
You didn't see
great.
my favorite part, bro.
Still looking for Evita. Where are you, bitch?
After the cemetery, we stopped for some refreshments at a random cafe, because in this part of town, you can't go wrong. Later in the day, we headed to one of my favorite spots in the whole town, El Ateneo, which in 2019 was named the most beautiful bookstore in the world by National Geographic. Its complete name is El Ateneo Grand Splendid, and it is situated on Avenida Santa Fe in the Barrio Norte neighborhood.
The building was designed by architects Peró and Torres Armengo, and what is so special about it is that it first opened as a theater called Teatro Grand Splendid in May 1919. The theater had a seating capacity of 1,050 and staged a variety of performances, including appearances by the tango artists Carlos Gardel, Francisco Canaro, Roberto Firpo, and Ignacio Corsini. In the late 20s, the theater was converted into a cinema, and in 1929 showed the first sound films presented in Argentina. While Ivan was looking for gems in the fiction section, I was on a hunt for the perfect Argentine cuisine cookbook. This turned out to be a very difficult mission, because in the enormous cookbook section, only like 5% of it was dedicated to Argentine cuisine, and even a large part of that was mostly dealing with asado, which is grilling.
A couple of cookbooks, a novel, and a subway ride later, we headed to the swanky, cool neighborhood next to another awesome neighborhood called Las Canitas for a well-deserved dinner with my relatives. The second in a long string of meat-based meals.
Sunday was dedicated to spending time with family in Adrogué, a suburb about 20 kilometers away from the city center. The highlight of the day was, of course, Its Majesty the asado, the traditional Argentine grill, skillfully prepared by El Tío Martín.
There is no ramble on asado because asado is wordless. You cut your knife into soft, tender loins of a steak and watch the juice drip out as your mouth waters equally. The smell of salt and pepper grinding in the cool summer air.
Of course, the day wouldn't be complete without some mate and lots of sweets.
On Monday, we took the subway to explore the next landmarks on our list.
The Buenos Aires subway system, also known as the subte, opened in 1913, becoming the 13th underground system in the world.
The fare for one trip with the subte is 19 pesos, the equivalent of about 30 cents. That's half of what it costs to ride the metro in Bucharest. So we got off at Plaza De Mayo, the main city square and one of the main foundational sites of the city.
This building, resembling a temple, is the Buenos Aires Metropolitan Cathedral, built on and off between 1753 and 1863, when the final decorations on the facade were completed.
The main reason we went to Plaza De Mayo was to see the Casa Rosada, the executive mansion and office of the president of the country. Not white, but baby pink, the characteristic color of the Casa Rosada, is one of the most emblematic buildings in Buenos Aires.
Next, we headed to the Gran Café Tortoni, supposedly one of the 10 most beautiful cafes in the world. Inaugurated in 1858, the cafe has been visited by many renowned people from Carlos Gardel to Albert Einstein and Hillary Clinton. Since there was a line to be allowed in, but mostly because the cafe doesn't have tables outside, we skipped on the experience and had coffee at a place one block down.
A 15-minute walk away was the next thing on our list, the Obelisco in the Plaza de la República at the intersection of Corrientes and 9 de Julio Avenue. The obelisk was erected in 1936 to commemorate 400 years since the first foundation of the city. Los Canelo. I used to come here twice a week to dance tango, and of course, Ella had to come, being the salsera dancer that she is. Here they are, the Canelo, looking fabulous. And there she is, Ella, in the tango room. Gotta stretch a little bit. Yo stretch. Got my dreams and my jeans on. Conex Cultural Center, right around the corner from the tango studio we practice at. That's me with my really awesome cousin Jero. And the first thing we do is order a couple of big old beers. Can you guess how much they cost? That's so awesome! Oh my god, mouth-watering, tasty beers.